Hey there, survivors! How's it going? I'm your host, Douglas here at Drowned Blade Productions, bringing you another Friday the 13th collecting video. And I want to wish all of you a happy Friday the 13th because today we have a Friday the 13th special video with the very first screen used or production piece from the franchise entering the collection. However, that's not all in today's video. We'll also be taking a look at a Jason Voorhees hockey mask with a stand and a life-size Jason figure. You'll see what I mean. I can't decide what to do first, but I guess we'll go ahead and save the screen used for last. So for those of you who only cared about that, I guess you'll have to skip forward in the video a bit. But for those of you who intend to watch the entire thing, let's go ahead and take a look at a very unique Jason Voorhees hockey mask and life-size figure. Alright, here we go. I've pretty much got it all set up already, so it should look pretty presentable. I don't know how well it's showing up on camera right now, but here we have the cover art version of Jason Voorhees and his hockey mask from Jason Goes to Hell. Of course, this cover artwork and poster artwork is very well known in the Friday the 13th franchise, and to many people they consider this image to be much cooler than the actual film itself. It is very well known, definitely very well known. If you were a younger kid walking through Blockbuster or whatever video rental store place, and you came across that, it definitely jumped out at you. The bright orange flames, the chrome-looking hockey mask, and that weird Jason worm demon thing. This is definitely something that I wasn't necessarily on the hunt for the collection. It would have been a very low priority as far as like Friday the 13th replica pieces to get. I'm always looking more so for the actual makeups and looks of the Jason character or even Roy first over something like this, which is more of like a concept art piece. However, I purchased this because it was part of a full lot that contains the screen used production piece that we're going to be taking a look at a little bit later. But still, this is very, very cool. And I also will say this, the price of everything together was cheaper than the price of that worm and that hockey mask originally. So this was a very, very good deal. This was also posted publicly so that anybody had a chance at this. This was not something that was exclusively offered to me, and I'm sure many Friday the 13th fans did see this when it got posted. But let's go ahead and break down this display. So the hockey mask itself was sculpted by Ruben Morales, who has done a ton of work in the replica world for horror. However, I believe that this was produced by James Power with permission from Ruben, if I'm correct. And these were cast in like resin. I don't know if it's fiberglass, but it is at least resin. They're pretty nice casts, and these are just painted in like a nice silver spray paint. I believe that Ruben did do some versions of these that were actually like really nice mirror finish chrome, like the cover artwork, but this one is just silver, but it still looks nice. As far as Jason himself, I did mention a life-size figure, and it kind of is, at least for Jason Goes to Hell. We have one variation of Jason in his changeling form, his deadite worm form, if you will. And this is the one that I think people probably like the least. A lot of people say that he looks like a turd. I gotta say though, if your turds look like this, you really need to talk to a doctor. This thing is cast in silicone, so it feels just as gross as it looks. And it does have some articulation towards the head and neck area, however not through the entire body. And it doesn't wrap tightly to the mask, you know, at least quite as tight as the cover artwork, but it still does a pretty good job of replicating that look. At the time of recording, I actually don't know the artist for the worm, so whenever I figure that out, I'll put it on screen if I have found out by the time of editing. If not, then someone let me know in the comment section down below who made this weird Jason worm. It's pretty cool, it's a well done replica. Especially if you're into Jason Goes to Hell and having a display like this, it's definitely what you want. It looks great, but it's just really gross to the touch, you know? It's really weird. As for the stand itself, it's very well made. You have a nice, thick, sturdy wooden base. It has supports here for the hockey mask and the worm kind of, but mostly just for the hockey mask itself. And then you have a nameplate here where I guess technically, if I wanted to, I could take this off a display, put something else in here and put a different hockey mask on this stand, like per se possibly that Part 7 blank. maybe I'll do that. But for now, it's definitely a full display here. It technically does have Jason Goes to Hell written in Sharpie on the bottom of the base, but that could be cleaned up no problem if I wanted to make it something else. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the display. And I gotta say, for the price that was paid, even just for what this is, it's very much so worth it, especially with that worm being made of silicone. I'm pretty sure the price was pretty much what the worm probably cost brand new. So just for this, it was a really good deal. But as I mentioned, there was a screen used or production piece that was also included. So let's go ahead and take a look at that next. But here we have a piece from Jason Goes to Hell, one of the Tree Demon miniatures from the original and what became the alternate ending of Jason Goes to Hell. I have no clue how well you guys can see this. I'm gonna go ahead and guess that there's probably a ton of glare coming off the front of this, so I will try to remove that front in just a second here, but the bottom of the case is a bit cracked from transport, but overall it is in pretty nice condition as far as the case itself. It has a photo back here of Jason in the ending of the film, and it has a tiny version of the poster on the front corner. I'm gonna see if I can't carefully pop off this front. All right, I managed to get the cover off, no problem. And here it is, the Tree Demon miniature. There's probably not a ton to see kind of far away because it is a miniature, and also it's not a super distinct, hyper detailed figure. It's just this weird, clumpy, murky clay slash tree demon type creature. Many people call them the tree demons, and that's kind of what they are. They definitely look like one of the Kandarian demons from Evil Dead to some extent. I'm guessing most of you watching aren't massive fans of Jason Goes to Hell. However, it's definitely one of the most interesting and different entries in the entire franchise, and it has a ton of really cool special effects. And this is a miniature from the alternate ending version of the film, where Jason was originally going to be dragged to hell by these tiny miniature demons. They had a doll of Jason, they had a doll of Steven, and of course they had many different versions of all these different demons. There's a lot of different ones that have made it out there, and there actually were different stages of Jason being drugged to hell made in miniature form. So some of them have remained pretty much intact, while many of them ended up being kind of broken up and just the individual puppets were sold, or portions of like the actual base itself where they could kind of pop into was sold. I have found a decent photo, not really showing any behind the scenes pictures of this specific one, but showing the areas in which they could kind of pop the ground out and then put the demon or the puppet in. So from what I know, this was supposed to be used. It was filmed, so I guess it was film used. It wasn't really seen in full quality in the final production of the film though. There is a version of that alternate ending you can find on YouTube and watch, but it's in like work print quality, pretty low. It would be almost impossible to match something like this. But we may get lucky because Adam Marcus and many other people have been working on a documentary for Jason Goes to Hell called Hearts of Darkness. And if that ever sees the light of day, we'll probably get to see some pretty cool behind the scenes photos and maybe even video that we haven't seen prior. And that'll give me a much better chance at actually matching this piece. However, personally, I don't care if I can match it or not. I don't care if it's really screen used or not. It's at least a production piece from Friday the 13th, which is pretty hard to come across, and especially for the price. For those of you who saw this listing, like I said earlier, it was so cheap that it almost seemed too good to be true. Like honestly guys, nothing against the person who posted it at all, literally nothing personal, but it was just such a cheap price that it seemed like a scam. I know several other people that didn't even try to purchase it because they thought that might be the case. But I went ahead and took a risk on this, which is not something that I necessarily would recommend to everybody, just taking a risk. But this one worked out because everything came. Everything came in pretty much perfect condition from how it shipped. This thing is in disrepair, but he did pack everything very well. It's just that this thing is super old. When foam latex gets old, it becomes very fragile. It starts falling apart, and that's why there's some chunks here at the bottom of the base. And part of his arm is kind of just holding on to the wire, which is made for the arm. But yeah, I'm very happy that this worked out, not just because it wasn't a scam, but also this piece, I will try my best to preserve it, but it will also be on display to the public for many other horror fans to enjoy for years to come. And of course, I made a YouTube video on it to show those of you who can't come check it out in person. So you still kind of get to see this thing when you maybe wouldn't have got to see one of these up close like you're going to today. And to that, I want to say a special thank you to the person that sold me this entire lot. Yet again, this was not an exclusive to me deal. Anyone could have purchased this piece at any point in time, but I still really appreciate just offering this opportunity to the community at large, and then also because I ended up getting it, I really appreciate it. Jared Johnson is the person who sent me this at Die Hard Horror. I'll be sure to put his information on screen now, but he also sent me a copy of one of his books here for free. This one is called Terror Bay, a Die Hard horror story. I'll read you the back real quick. An ancient presence has been awoken in Walleye Bay. Something evil is flourishing deep in the heart of this peaceful town. A string of grisly murders have left the town folk in a frenzy, and the police are deadlocked on any leads. Terror Bay takes you into a very dark place, and dares for you to hold out hope. So yeah, there you go. A book by Jared Johnson. I will be sure to give this a read whenever I have the chance, and if any of you are interested in checking this out, or maybe even checking out his Instagram, his Facebook, stuff like that, please go ahead and give it a look. So yeah, there you have it. Happy Friday the 13th, folks. I know it wasn't a screen used Jason piece, but that's very, very, very unlikely. So just very, very lucky deal here. I greatly appreciate it, Jared. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I love you all. Yet again, happy Friday the 13th. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.